All right, everybody. It is May 9th, 2011, and this is Michael Watson, and this is the virtual chapter of IACT, IMDHA, and hypnotists and their friends everywhere. Welcome to the virtual chapter. It's good to have you with us tonight. I want to tell you just a little bit before we get underway. We're going to be talking to Wendi Friesen in just a little while, so I'm really excited about that. It's going to be a lovely chat about working with addictions, and we've been anticipating it for a bit. So hang on to your hats and make sure that you've got your seatbelts on, your lap bar fully in place, and you'll be all ready to go. But I just want to tell you a little bit just at the front end here about the virtual chapter and what's going on with us, because we've only been in video for a few months, and it's really a lovely opportunity to be able to bring in presenters and stuff from all over the place. And so the second Tuesday night of every month. The way that this all started out was I've had an ongoing Monday night group, the first Monday of the month, for the last 20-some years. And one day, Robert and Linda asked me if I wanted to start a chapter in Orlando. And I said, well, gosh, my schedule is full, and I've got this thing that I'm already doing. So what happened is that thing that I'm already doing also became a chapter. And we tried to have a local chapter. And because we wanted to reach more people, we went teleconference with it. And then what happened is this lovely little local community that I had built in Orlando of folks that got together once a month and hung out in a little circle and knew each other well, were gathering together to watch me do a radio broadcast. And it lost its spark. It lost its fun. So we separated them out. We started doing the virtual chapter as a teleconference first. And so it has led finally to this. So I'm looking forward to where it will go in the future. We're getting together a web page and a Facebook group where we will be posting the videos and stuff from these programs as well. And you'll get more information about that when those things are ready. Also, the videos from tonight's program will be posted on the members forum of IACT and IMDHA tomorrow. So if you're a member, you can log into the forum out there and see the videos. And if nothing else, if you can't see them anywhere else and you want them, you can write to me. I'm in Florida and I do hypnosis, and so my email address is flhypno@outlook.com. And just let me know, and I'll send you a link to the recording of tonight's thing. Also, just to let you know that if you're a member of IACT and IMDHA, and probably most reasonable hypnotherapy organizations in the world, you can get CEUs for spending an hour with us tonight. So whatever you do for your organization, be sure and let them know that you did this with IACT and IMDHA. Just log on to the website with your member ID, and when you log on, there's a little screen that comes up that asks you if you have any continuing education hours, and you just put in there what you did. Also, next month, we are going to have Jan Prince with us. Jan Prince is we're going to be talking about language and language and influence, and Jan is a remarkable psychotherapist. She's an NLP trainer. She's the founder of NLP of the Rockies, and her charming persona is only surpassed by her wisdom and skill. So join us on the 13th of June. Same time, same place, same link that you used to log into this one, and you'll be able to see that meeting with Jan. So now, that's all about everybody else. Now I get to turn my attention to the remarkable Wendi Friesen, who is going to be our guest this evening. Wendi, gosh, I don't know where to start with her. I have known her forever, it seems. In fact, I was joking. I said when I first met her, I became aware of her over 20 years ago. And what I remember at the time was that she was doing some work and getting some attention with regard to breast enhancement in hypnosis. Some of it was just, I think it just titillated everybody. I'm sorry, it really was an accident.
He was waiting to put that in there.
But it really got a lot of attention, and you became somewhat of a media sweetheart. You were doing your own radio show. You were on Coast to Coast, I remember, and just a whole bunch of stuff like that. And you were in some of the earliest online web groups about hypnosis and stuff that I can remember. So I think I've known you for a long, long time now, but she is on a mission now. However, she has, continued to evolve in her work, and she is on a mission now to change the way that the world treats addiction. She says that the crisis of addiction is something that she takes personally, and her success in helping people and addicts and their families is right at the heart of what she's doing. So welcome, Wendi. It's good to have you here.
Thank you. Yeah, I met you in San Francisco when I came to a workshop of yours over 20 years ago. Remember that little cool place that had all the fountains and pretty stuff. So yeah, it's been very nice following you and getting to know you. Yep. Yeah, I think in the beginning, since those of us who are on the internet early, we survived those horrendous forum or chat room things where people just argued a lot about everything. Oh boy, that was fun. But then, being early on the internet, you didn't have any competition. And if you made some noise, you did something unique, or you kind of stayed on top of it, you really could get known. Now it's obviously a lot more difficult. But then, getting in those chat rooms and being brave enough to come out and have your opinion and say what you're thinking and, have a little scrap here and there with people really made people notice.
Well, I remember you and Kevin Hogan and Roy Hunter and Ross Jeffries and
cool. Ed that sent Kevin an envelope full of poop, of human poop.
Oh, lovely.
Ed was pretty psycho. He was a tinfoil hat kind of guy. Yeah.
What's wrong with tinfoil? Are you saying something? So let's start with this thing about addiction, because it's quite a shift from where I remember you beginning, and I saw you last year in England talking to Terence Watts' group, and it was so exciting. I was just really thrilled to be there when you were doing your deal, and so I thought of you right away with regard to being on the virtual chapter. So
yeah, it's very exciting.
So how did you happen to get into that?
Well, I was not very confident about getting into addiction in general, even though all hypnotherapists and NLP practitioners understand that they have great tools to use with that, but still it's kind of scary, because here's all these treatment centers with, doctors and all their 12-step and all their, $30,000 to $40,000 for a month of rehab. And you figure, well, they must have it figured out, right? They must know what they're doing. But when you learn from the inside what's really going on, it's quite disappointing to think that these families have so much hope and they're putting their loved ones in there at $30,000 to $40,000 a shot, and multiple times, because the first time doesn't work, then you think the next place is going to do better and the next one's going to do better, and they don't. So my oldest son, who's 33 now, and he's doing great, but he spent a decade with opiates and alcohol and a lot of different drugs. But every rehab he went to, I was expecting different results. And they did the same thing. They just had them do 12-step meetings, either in the rehab or they drove them to 12-step meetings, fed them crappy food, and told them things that were really scary. So I went to one of the meetings that my son was at in the rehab in Southern California, and I sat there with the zipper on my mouth, and the man gets up in front of the group, and he's one of the professional AA lecturers, so he goes to all these different rehabs and does his lecture, and he says to the group, okay, so I'm George, and everybody says, hi, George, as I'm an alcoholic, he says, after 20 years of being sober, I got to tell you that even today, I'm still trying to just make it till midnight. I'm still white knuckling it every day. Whoa. Yeah. The zipper I had in my mouth was getting a little, So here he's future pacing them, telling them how hard it's going to be and how you're still going to be struggling in 20 years. So the more that I went to these rehabs, the scarier it became. One of the biggest ones in Newport Beach, they have over 100 people that they house in these little apartments. And the director, knowing the work that I was doing, he took me in his office and said, I got to tell you, we have a success rate that's only about 5 to 6%, and we don't know what to do about it. He's telling me this honestly, and he says, is there something you could help us with? Because I know you're working on this. And I said, well, let me just do a session with some of the people in your group. So I had the next night, I did a meeting with them, and all I did was a future timeline. I didn't set them up with all this expectation and, none of this big like hoop-de-doo. I just took them into their future 1 year from now when they're no longer an addict. They're not struggling. They don't have a disease. They're feeling strong. Their family has taken them back. They've healed their relationships. And the thing that feels so good to them is being, just without drugs, they've done brilliant things, and look around and see what you've done. So anyway, I did that. And the next day, Ryan, the director, says, what did you do to those people? Everybody's talking about you. And I said, a drop in the bucket. All I did really was take away all the negative things that AA tells you you're going to have to live with. So this continued as I kept putting my son in different rehabs. And one of them he went to, when several of the members were getting ready to leave, the guy told them, in 60 days, only 1 in 12 of you is going to still be clean and sober. Come on.
Yeah.
And that you're going to be triggered. You're going to constantly be tempted. And, on and on, just all the things of failure. And you're always going to have a disease. You're always susceptible. And you cannot hang out with people who drink or where there's drugs or anything. And it's no drugs of any kind ever. If you slip, you're back to square one. And, and then it means you haven't hit bottom if you screw up. And you're like, I haven't hit bottom. I've lost everything. And they say, you haven't hit your bottom. So all of this just opened my eyes to, like, as hypnotherapists and NLP practitioners, would we ever imagine saying to a client, in trance, saying, you're always going to be diseased, you're always on the verge of relapse, everything around you is going to trigger you, you're an addict for life, and would we ever do that?
The big trance.
Yeah. But they're doing it to them and then wondering why they've got low success rates. But the real seedy underbelly and the scary part is that they know this is going on, but they're full and they're cashing checks for their $20,000 to $30,000, $40,000. So Chris Prentice, who opened Passages in Malibu, he wrote a book about it, and his son went through the same thing mine did over and over and over in rehab. So he opened it, costs $80,000 a month. Ooh. And he has a team of 12 hypnotherapists, and he does brain repair with supplements to get your brain kicking in as fast as you can so that you can start learning and growing and getting solid with that. Feeds them good food, massage, acupuncture, all kinds of things. And with his work, you're not an addict, you're not diseased, you're not on the edge of relapse. So some of his hypnotherapists came to me for training because I guess at Passages, they don't give them any training. They let them do whatever they want. But I developed a program that is based on a lot of things that all of you know and understand, but putting it in such a way that each piece is a piece of the puzzle. When we look at all the different aspects of what it takes to become a non-addict and become what I call strong, healthy, and in control, we anchor things with all three of those words in each session. And we end up with people whose brains have been totally rewired with the neural pathways and the beliefs and the future memories and all those things that just make them feel really good and strong. And with no doubt. They have just no doubt.
Great. Lovely. So you mentioned, by the way, I'm a little curious because I know the model that most people have, and it's what you said that the rehabs are basically using as well, is 12-step groups. My gosh, I used to live in San Francisco, and I remember I remember the Gay Pride Parade every year. And what I remember is that the last half of that parade, I mean, it's a massively long parade, were all of the people from the 12-step groups. And I mean, this is such a huge movement. And obviously it's made a difference for some people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I guess I can understand the seductiveness of sort of falling back on that.
Well, being in a group and in a community, as we talked about before we went live, there's a lot to be said for being in a group of people who are against something and getting closer. But it's still such a small percentage of people that it works for. And they are, they're always on the verge of relapse because that's what they're told. So one of the other places I was at, they were having a meeting where Everybody's sitting around in a circle, and it was an AA meeting, but you paid $1,000 a month to attend these private AA meetings with this guy.
I bet they got better results.
Not well, maybe, yeah, because you're paying more. But what he said to this one guy, and again, for you hypnotists, you'll love this. He looks at this guy who's been coming, every night, and he says, "So you're a high relapser, right?" And the guy goes, "Yeah." And he says, "So when is it that you relapse? Is it 30 days or 60 days?" I'm just,
yeah.
And he says, "Well, it's 30 sometimes, but usually 60. He says, "So you're coming up on that time where you're just about," so here he is still hypnotizing him, future pacing him, reinforcing that belief. And then he says, "Okay, well, it's, we're getting close to Thanksgiving and Christmas, so we're going to watch another video because, people relapse during the holidays. It's really, really hard to stay sober on the holidays." And again, gosh. So I do, with my groups, I do this experiment with them where I have somebody take this roll of duct tape and stick it on the floor and draw a line between this side of the room and that side of the room. And then after we have looked at what the beliefs are and the teachings of AA and 12-step and the beliefs of what we teach with the Addiction Freedom Program, I have them go and stand on one side of the room, close their eyes, and I just read all of the different beliefs that are the things that they all know about 12-step. And I say, "Okay, how do you feel right now? How sure are you that you can be clean and sober?" And I say, raise, 1 finger to 5 fingers, however sure you are. And almost everybody has a 1 or a 2. And all I did was read that you're diseased for life. You're always on the verge of relapse. You're powerless. You're, on and on and on. So then I say, "Okay, shake it off. Shake your body really hard and jump over the tape to the other side." And on that side, I have them close their eyes and I read off the things that are the beliefs of Addiction Freedom Program, and they are powerful and they are strong. They're in control. They're totally confident when they're around other people who are drinking or doing whatever, that they know that in the future that there's not going to be any doubt and that they, blah, blah, blah. And we've written all this down. And then I say from a 1 to 5, keeping your eyes closed, raise your finger, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And everybody's like a 4 or a 5. All we did was change the words and the associations. And so now they're like blown away. If you were going to do addiction freedom work as a therapist and you take a group of people, even if it's a small group, and you do this experience with them, when they feel that contrast, it blows their mind. So then I say, "Okay, now go over to the other side of the tape." I'm like, "No, don't make us." And so they go over there and I say, "Close your eyes again. And I want you just to notice what it is that this is doing to your body, your mind." And I don't try to implant like this fear and terror. I just say, just notice what this is doing to your body. Notice how strong or weak or how hopeful or sad. Notice what you're feeling. And now, without saying a word, just open your eyes and look in the eyes and the faces of everyone. So silently they open their eyes and they look at the faces, and it's amazing, like the posture and oh my gosh. Close your eyes, shake it off, jump to the other side, and I do some more of what the list is. And again, I say, "Okay, open your eyes without saying anything, just look at the faces." People's bodies are standing up straight. Their skin has just like gone upward, and everything is just so solid. It is amazing. So now you have people who are, understanding what you do without telling them. You're not, because it's tough. You go talk to some AA people and they're going to get in your face and they are not going to be open to what you're saying. But if they experience it, they're like, "Oh shit, I guess I might be doing it wrong."
Nice. So I'm really curious about this, because I know this is, you've done such extensive studies with it. So tell me about the science. What is the science that supports the use of hypnosis for addiction?
Well, one of the things to understand about 12-step methods is there is no science at all. It's not based in anything except 80 years ago when Bill wrote this book, and it was the best thing then that they had because they didn't have anything else. But there's no science in it. So what we know about how the brain works is that, where you focus your attention is where your neural pathways grow. And if you're going to think a certain thought, especially something emotional, like you're fearful that you're going to relapse, or you're worried that you're going to a gathering and people are going to be drinking. When you get those feelings of fear or worry, the neural pathways in your brain grow to the memories that hold the emotions that support fear and worry. And what we know from Candace Pert's work with the molecules of emotion is that when one of these memories is opened up or reacting, it now finds others that are similar. So then it sends signals to other memories that have the similar emotion of fear or doubt or uncertainty. So now you've created this little storm of only those memories and emotions that are about fear or sadness or worry. And now you wonder why, you feel so helpless and powerless. So mostly the science is that the things that we know, but other people don't understand. So when you create a future memory, we do know that this memory holds the emotions in the same way as a memory of something that's really happened. So if we create the future memory with enough emotion and beliefs and values and all the things of having already experienced that at, let's say, 6 months or 1 year in the future, now we want to get those neural pathways to grow to that future memory. And we want to keep making as many of these as we can. So we're loading the brain up with as many things that have the values and the strengths and the beliefs that we need. But now, the thing that we all know, but maybe you haven't thought of using it for addiction this way, is that we want to make the sight or the smell or the thought of a drink trigger those future memories. So we're going to create those as anchors so that you can be around those things, and then they fire off before you're even consciously aware of it. They fire off those neural pathways that go to those memories that are like, I'm strong and healthy and in control. I feel fine. It's no big deal. So I was in the grocery store walking around, and this woman saw me and came up to me and said, "Oh my gosh, Wendi, I can't believe it. I have to tell you what happened with my husband." She says he'd been drinking, and for decades he's been drinking, and our lives are ruined and nothing's worked. So he did your program. He just bought the CDs at the time. She says, and everything's working great, but it's the weirdest thing. Like when the people come over for dinner, he makes them drinks and serves them drinks. And it seems to make him happy because he knows he doesn't even need it. We go wine tasting and he drinks Pellegrino and he's totally happy with that. So I can't imagine this could have ever happened. And he had been that way at the time, like for a year. So another interesting example, and you know what the most powerful anchor is that we have? Yeah. Well, if you smell something, it brings you back to, if it's a perfume or whatever it is, takes you right back. The olfactory response, that goes directly to those emotional sensors in your brain.
You bet.
So one of my clients who had done the program, and he'd quit drinking for a couple of months. He was at a conference, sitting at the bar in the hotel, drinking his club soda. His friend comes up and says, "Oh, wow, I bought you a drink. It's your favorite whiskey." So he takes his favorite whiskey and runs it under the guy's nose. He didn't know that his friend had quit drinking. The guy told me, he says, as soon as I smelled that glass of whiskey, it made me feel strong and healthy and in control, and everything that meant. He said, I felt so strong because I smelled it and I knew I got this. No problem. Yeah. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. The stories like that are just so amazing.
So your program, you have it's recordings that you distribute, or how does this work?
Well, both ways. So if you're a hypnotherapist and you're wanting to get into working with addiction, it's definitely not a direct suggestion thing. We've got to get the causes worked out. We have to create that future self, and we have to do some self-sabotage work with parts therapy, and go through all the processes. So people do it online as a course, and they get a workbook that takes them through every page of understanding the foundation for it. But doing the hypnosis sessions online, a lot of my clients now, they have me for about 15 minutes a day on the phone. And of course that costs, quite a bit more, but I keep them accountable, answer questions, keep reinforcing what they need. Or if something isn't working, then we'll do a real quick thing to readjust that. So we'll do daily for 2 weeks, or a client will come to me personally for 4 days. It's really like 3.5 days. We do about 4 hours a day together, and then they have homework each day. And they pay $5,000 for that. If it's in a group, it's 4,000, because they are looking for something different. So from a marketing perspective, I have always known, just because of the way I grew up with the family I was in, that if you want to be successful at something, find something that people are desperate to solve, a problem they have that is a really, really difficult problem, and they are desperate to solve it.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah.
I'm wondering, by the way, different states, different laws, things like that. Are there any caveats about whether hypnotherapists can work with addictions across the country, or?
That's a great question. We've discussed this at my trainings when I do trainings for hypnotherapists to be practitioners in this. And that's been a real sticky area. So one of my last trainings, one of our people was an attorney, and she said that what we were looking at is being relapse prevention experts. And then you're not treating addiction. So our people they've already detoxed, or, you know, they don't drink enough to need to detox, or if they were a heroin addict, you know, they definitely have detoxed for at least a week or two. Mm-hmm. But we're not treating their addiction. We are relapse prevention experts. So that falls into that area of motivation and behavior change. And I think we're pretty safe in that. And as you know, Michael, is like vocal as I am about all this, knock on wood, I've just never had anybody bat an eyelash at any issues or liability or anything.
Yeah. Great.
But there's no guarantees. There's no money back guarantee. I have them sign something that says, you know, wow, this is really, really successful. It may not work for you. Mm-hmm. And I'll try to help you if there's, you know, some issues afterwards, that there's no refunds and nothing like that.
Yeah. So you mentioned training. I didn't even think to ask you about that, and it occurred to me a few minutes ago that we hadn't talked about it. You offer a training program for hypnotherapists in this approach?
Yeah. So we do it online, but I prefer to do it in person because the things that you learn from each other are really amazing. And I take the students and have them do parts of the presentations because they learn better by teaching it. So everybody's kind of, you know, doing little segments that they have to work on every day. And it's a 3-day training, and it's like, you know, all day and all evening. But they also learn the marketing aspect of it, you know, because it is something that's a touchy area to market. People are afraid of talking about addiction and saying, okay, yeah, I got this. I know you've spent $200,000 on addiction for your son, but and it can be scary at first until you start having some clients and you see this amazing success. So, you know, the marketing part is a big piece of it, getting you confident enough to talk to people. So I go to a doctor, and I have a new doctor, and he's the head of a group of about 30 doctors, you know, and he asks what I do, and I have my little pitch. And he says, oh my gosh, really? We need that so bad. We don't have anything to give our patients who are struggling with alcohol or drug addiction. And so now he wants me to come and do a presentation for his 30 doctors, and they have thousands of patients. Everybody wants an answer for this. The federal government just gave bazillions of dollars to every state to tackle the addiction issue, especially opiate addiction. Uh-huh. And opiate addiction, again, is more about not relapsing, because opiate addicts get clean all the time. But that's a really, really tough one. But knowing what you're doing for marketing to present it in a way that people understand and they get it is essential.
Great. Well, I think we ought to give people a chance if they'd like to ask some questions and stuff as well. So I just need to let you all know how to do this. Wendi, in the meantime, well, yeah, I'll ask you a question in a moment. But for all of you that are listening and watching, if you have a question for Wendi, I mentioned earlier how to raise your hand. There's actually 2 different choices for you. You can go into that participants area, and so you'll see a list of all the people that are on the call, and down on the bottom there's a little button that says more, and if you click on that, you will one of the choices will be raise hand, or it'll be down there somewhere. Can you all see that, right?
Yeah.
Another choice too, if you have a question, you can type I have a question in the chat box if you want to open up the chat box, and then we'll see it. That way I can open up your microphone then, and you can talk to Wendi directly.
Yeah, so the room for help doing this with opiate addicts, because the opiate problem is just so huge, you know, that's where there's just so much opportunity. And I've worked with some opiate addicts. One of my recent ones was a young man who was 28 years old, and he had some really scary tattoos all over his body. And he couldn't make eye contact. And oh boy, it was, I thought I've got a really tough job to do. But on day number 2, his mom was there with him. They flew in. She couldn't believe the difference on day 2. And by day 3, he was just all eye contact, right on, right there, hugs, and just his emotions were finally on the outside, feeling what he wanted to feel because of him meeting himself in all these future situations and getting that wisdom and getting a little glimmer of spirituality. But what was really interesting, he smoked pot all day. And I knew this, and right before each of our hypnosis sessions, he'd take a hit of pot. And I had never done hypnosis with anyone who was doing pot. And I'm not opposed to pot. I smoke it. I live in Colorado. What am I going to do? You have to. It's required.
Yeah. At the state line when you come in.
Yeah, they just hand it to you. Say, you don't need an ID here. But it enhanced his trance experience. It did not distract him. It made it deeper and made him more open to it. And he had phenomenal experiences in his trance because of the pot. Mm-hmm. But anyway, and he did great. He had no doubt about not, going back to opiates. And I've followed up with him a few times. It's been about, I don't know, month and a half. His mom and dad are just so thrilled. They can't even believe it.
Over the moon, yeah. And what I think is so great about that too is not only is this a valuable service, and we really want to look that way, right? But the other part of it is how rewarding to be a part of that in people's lives, and it makes it worth getting out of bed in the morning to to actually do this.
Yeah, doing the 4-day thing with clients is it's emotionally, it takes a lot out of you, but it's every day after I'm done with my client, I'm just so full of like, oh my God, the world has to have this. Everyone has to have this opportunity to experience this if they're struggling with addiction. Yeah. Because it's just not right that this whole 12-step thing and all the fraud and the corruption in rehab has been doing this to people and telling them it's their fault. They failed. And it's not their fault. Yeah. It's teaching. They're getting it wrong. And here we hold the keys to the kingdom. We know all we need to know to be able to help people.
That is great.
We're going around just destroying them.
Well, look, I see Patty has her hand up. So, Patty Scott, I have just unmuted you. Go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, a few minutes ago I was going to ask, I wasn't sure where Wendi was from. I couldn't remember, but now she's mentioned Colorado. But I just wondered, I know you work with clinics and, doctors and things. When someone comes to you as an individual for your addictions freedom technique that you do you get a referral? Are there times when you feel like you need to get a referral? I know in Florida there's certain rules, and I'm not sure about Colorado how that works, but are you concerned about that at all, or you just kind of call it what you said, which I really like the way you framed that. What was it? Relapse prevention expert. But are there any considerations that you do there in Colorado as far as perhaps sometimes feeling like you want to have that doctor's referral? I was just curious.
Yeah. Well, most people don't really go to their doctor for addiction help, very rarely. They may go to an addiction doctor, and there's times where I have referred them to an addiction doctor if they need help detoxing, but I can't give them advice about detoxing, of course. I do give them a website link to some information about getting off alcohol gradually, or what it takes to, if you're going to detox at home from heroin, because people do all the time. But I just give them that information from a third party and say, or leave it. I do advise them to go visit their doctor and get, the physical help, because what you have to know as therapists are the dangers and such of detoxing, especially from alcohol and some other drugs. But I'm not concerned about it, about getting into trouble, because I feel that I'm pretty solid in not treating addiction. Very careful not to use those words, and it falling into that umbrella of motivation, which I did most of my work in California, and there you had to do either motivation or, I think you were allowed to do motivation, sports, and stress. That was it. But everything falls into that. I'm stressed, I do drugs, I drink. I have no motivation to quit. So yeah, I'm not too concerned, but I don't know, I've got some practitioners in Florida who are doing the work, and they feel very comfortable with doing relapse prevention. And that is what it's about. And every addict will tell you, you say, it's not about quitting. You've quit hundreds of times, right? Yeah. It's about whether or not you're going to stay quit.
Nice.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Words for Wendi. So Wendi, while we're waiting to see another hand pop up here, how can people get in touch with you if they're interested in learning your program and stuff? Like I said, I wasn't prepared for that because it just hadn't occurred to me to ask you. And here's a really valuable thing. You run it online, you said?
Yeah, I do the program online, but it's better to do it in person, but you can do it online. So you do 10 hours of video classes, and then you do reading and quizzes and tests along the way. And there's other things you do that are research and such. So it probably ends up being about 25 hours online. And then we have mastermind meetings, and there's over 100 mastermind meetings, which are on many topics. Like, for instance, if you want to present this to a doctor's office, we have letters that are pre-written for you. We have brochures that are pre-made. We have, postcards if you're going to do a free group session. So all of these things. And you'll learn the basics online. It's better in person, of course. Just getting what you get from each other is pretty amazing. So theaddictionproject.com is where you can read more about it. And there's a presentation that I did that anybody can use the presentation. It's a PowerPoint thing to use with clients or rehab centers that are looking for an alternative, or physicians. And it lays it out piece by piece so it makes sense. And it brings people from a point of being rabid AA fans to being like, oh, wow, huh? Yeah, we've totally been missing the boat.
Great. Well, lovely.
Yeah.
And again, so it's The Addiction, say it again.
theaddictionproject.com.
Great.
Yeah. And I haven't advertised or optimized. I used to advertise addiction a lot. I did national radio advertising for many years. But since I started the Addiction Project, I haven't done any marketing or advertising. And I put that website together myself, and I don't even know how people find it. But I get so many requests for people who they're desperate. They need help right now. And they're from all over the world. And I have practitioners in all over the world. Like my lady in Australia gets so many referrals for these clients that she's charging $4,000 or $5,000 for. And so there's a lot of referrals going through there that I'm not even aware of. But the people that contact me is, do you have a practitioner in New Jersey? Do you have someone in Albany? Do you have someone in Tallahassee? On and on. So we need a lot of people to be able to do this work and do it really well. But it's not hard to do. And here's why. So your client gets this workbook, and every day this tells you and the client what to do. So if you're reading about the future timeline, it has all the writing that they're going to do first, and then it tells you what session to do with them that day and what homework to give them, and then what they're going to journal about, and then about beliefs. So you don't have to know how to talk to them about how important it is that your core belief is this. They get to read about it, and you discuss it, and then they go into, again, their statements of identity, what the sessions are, and it leads you through the whole program. So you have to know, the sessions, you need to know what to do in the sessions, because there's a whole, all the strategies and processes, NLP stuff, hypnosis in there for you, but it does lead you through it. So it's not like you're, oh gosh, now I took this training, I don't know what to do with it now. It's absolutely laid out, so everybody gets almost the same experience.
Great. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we are just running at the end of our time right now. Let me just make sure we're all set. But yeah, we are running to the end of our time. So hang on with me just for a minute. I want to make a couple announcements, and then we will say goodbye. I just want to remind you all that this has been recorded. And so the recording will be available on the IACT IMDHA forum tomorrow. So just go out there and log in with your ID and stuff, and you'll be able to see it again, because some people will just get addicted to things like this, and we want you to be able to have constant access to it from now on. Also, if you're not a member of the forum or you can't get it that way, you can also get it from me. Just drop me a note. That's what will remind me. So FLHypno, FLHYPNO @outlook.com. And I'll be happy to see to it that you get a link. And I want to remind you, CEUs, if you're a member of IACT or IMDHA, are available to you. All you got to do is claim them. And next month, the 13th of June, we're going to have Jan Prince, and we're going to be talking about language and influence, and I think that'll be a great evening as well. So all of that said, Wendi, I want to thank you so much for doing this. It was just wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's always great to spread the message, and then all of you that are listening to this now or later or whenever, be sure to start spreading the word as well, not because it's part of this addiction project, but because we need people to have their minds open to something different and what is available. And, the place I talked about, Passages, that's $80,000 a month, they have really good success. Supposedly they have 85% long-term success that is validated by not just the person, but the family members and all this stuff. So they're having great success doing hypnotherapy and other things. But the program that I do also includes brain repair supplements. We give them a list of all the supplements that are going to repair their brain and why it's so important and to get them feeling good, and the dopamine, normalized and such. So there's a little more to it, but yeah, just use the tidbits you have from this to talk to other people about it, and see if you're going to feel like you want to, specialize in it, because it's very rewarding. Oh my gosh.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, we love you. We appreciate it. And Wendi, now I'm going to do something that I do every single time that we do these calls. It's wild. It is reckless. It is ridiculous. But I'm going to take everybody off of mute all at the same time. So whatever kind of cacophony we get, they'll be able to at least say goodnight to you and to one another. So here we go. Good night, everybody. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you, Wendi.
All right, good night.
Michael, you look particularly handsome tonight.
Oh, thank you, darling.
Must be the glow of the sun on the beach.
That's what it is.